Federalist 70, Part 2. This is a book of essays that was published in 1987, Saving the Revolution, the Federalist Papers and the American Founding. It's a pretty good book if you want to read a little bit more deeply into the Federalist Papers and the founding of the United States. I recommend it. I'll go ahead and start reading with paragraph 3, starting at paragraph 3. Taking it for granted, therefore, that all men of sense will agree in the necessity of an energetic executive, it will only remain to inquire what are the ingredients which constitute this energy. How far can they be combined with those other ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense? And how far does this combination characterize the plan which has been reported by the convention? So, having an energetic government, energetic executive is very important. However, how can we go about creating an energetic executive while keeping and adhering to the tenets of a Republican government? Liberty, stability, representation, judicial independence, separation of powers, checks and balances. The ingredients which constitute energy in the executive are unity, duration, and adequate provision for its support, competent powers. So it gives you these four things: unity, duration, and adequate provision for its support, competent powers. The ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense are due dependence on the people and due responsibility. So you got to be dependent on the people, and that happens by representation. At set periods, set intervals, you will have elections. The legislature, whether it's the state or whether it's the federal government, cannot change the date on you. You have to remember that even in the middle of the Civil War in the United States, elections took place. And people like Abraham Lincoln wanted to make sure that this happens. The ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense are due dependence on the people and due responsibility. Those politicians and statesmen who have been the most celebrated for the soundness of their principles and for the justice of their views have declared in favor of a single executive and a numerous legislature. They have, with great propriety, considered energy as the most necessary qualification of the former, and have regarded this as the most applicable to power in a single hand, while they have, with equal propriety, considered the latter as best adapted to deliberation and wisdom, and best calculated to conciliate the confidence of the people and to secure their privileges and interests. So he's getting the reader ready to accept the fact that the executive needs to be energetic, needs to be able to act fast. Whereas in the legislature, that's where the deliberation takes place, because you've got so many people there and you want them to deliberate and wisely decide on a path, on laws, to take the society forward, to defend, to bring about things that will make people happy and prosperous. But the executive needs to be always alert in case there's a attack from a foreign soil. Because remember, they had just signed the Treaty of Peace 4 years earlier. And as you read the history of the United States, you see they went to war again with Britain in 1812. So because they were not united yet, they knew that they were going to be sooner or later attacked. Or because they were establishing a republic, they knew that these European monarchs who were running an empire did not want to see a successful republic. So they were threatened at all times. The next paragraph, that unity is conducive to energy will not be disputed. Decision, activity, secrecy, and dispatch, how fast you get something done, will generally characterize the proceedings of one man in a much more eminent degree than the proceedings of any greater number. And in proportion as the numbers increase, these qualities will be diminished. So we decided to go with one person as president instead of a council group of 4 or 5 people. It's because you want to make that decision fast, prompt, with dispatch. And then at the same time, he's going to say that this will make the president more responsible because he knows he can't pass the blame to anybody else. That's the important part. This unity may be destroyed in 2 ways. Either by vesting the power in 2 or more magistrates of equal dignity and authority, or by vesting it ostensibly in one man, subject in whole or in part to the control and cooperation of others in the capacity of counselors to him. Of this first, the 2 councils of Rome may serve as an example. Of the last, we shall find examples in the constitution of the several states. New York and New Jersey, if I recollect right, are the only states which have entrusted the executive authority wholly to a single man. Both these methods of destroying the unity of the executive have their partisans, but the votaries of an executive council are the most numerous. They are both liable, if not to equal, to similar objections, and may in most lights be examined in conjunction. Now, Hamilton himself writes a footnote, and let me read that for you. New York has no council except for the single purpose of appointing to offices. New Jersey has a council whom the governor may consult, but I think from the terms of the Constitution, their resolutions do not bind them. So here he says we have 2 examples that are against the system we have, that we have suggested unity. What he means is just one person as the president. I know it doesn't mean unity in the sense that we use it. He says you could either do it like Rome did, have 2 councils as running the executive, 2 presidents. One of them comes from plebeian class, the other one from patrician class, and the Senate would nominate these 2, and then the people will choose. The Senate will nominate some candidates, and the people will choose. And he says that always created problems for the Roman system, Roman Republic. And that's why at the beginning of this paper he said always a dictator has to come and take care of things because there was always confusion. And he says the next method would be like most of the states, which they have a governor, but they have a council guiding or checking the governor to make sure he doesn't overstep his bounds. And he says we've seen that in the states that have these councils, there's always problems. New York and New Jersey are the only ones that somewhat, pretty much, they have given most of the authority of the executive branch to the governor. So his whole theme is one person as president, but he realizes that he has to keep on saying this because American people just had a revolution against a British monarch, about a British system that they thought the monarch had concentrated power and had become a tyrant. authoritarian system. So they did not want to establish another system like that in the United States. So they were very watchful of what powers the president would have. But as I've told you before, in the last two papers, Americans were lucky that George Washington was present. He had already given power one time, had actually resigned him from his post as a general and the head of the Revolutionary Army. People had trust in him that he would not be an emperor. He would not claim himself to be an emperor if they gave him, if they made him the first president. So American federalism, American system was very fortunate, has always been very fortunate, lucky to have the right people at the right time. This has happened one time at the time of the founding, one time during the American Civil War with Abraham Lincoln as president, and the last time under FDR when the World War II and Depression was going on. So we'll return and read on.